everyone, and welcome to episode 490 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week. Kicking things off with sweaty One Piece grinder, Richard. Congratulations, Richard, on winning your pre-release.
We gotta stop talking about One Piece. People are getting mad. We gotta talk about Assassin's Creed today. You know,
Yeah, okay, we are. Don't worry.
Assassin's Creed.
It's coming. It's coming. We got another co-host in Krim. Good morning, Krim. How are you today?
Morning. Just getting ready to move and do all the moving pains and all that stuff.
Wait, when do you have to move? Like this month or next month?
Probably this month. The end of this month. So yeah, we're getting all that dialed in.
That's also known as this week.
Yep, exactly. This has all got to go by this week.
Krim blew my mind when he was telling me about looking for apartments in LA, because he was like, yeah, you're like supposed to move in like in the next couple of days. I was like, I couldn't literally do that here if I wanted to. They're like, oh, in the next month, maybe the beginning of the next month you can move in. But apparently you can't even do that in LA, which is wild to me that they want you to move in right away. But good luck with that.
The move-in time is like, like the most places, they won't even hold you your apartment unless or place or whatever if your like move-in date is more than like 4 days. So I'm just like, all right, well.
That's because you're moving to the OC crib. I watched that.
No, dude.
I watched that show. I know what's going on.
I
remember the 90s or whatever.
I will not be going there. I despise the OC. Gee.
So anyway, what are we talking about today on the cast? Well, we got a BNR update today, so we want to talk about that a little bit. We want to talk about Assassin's Creed. We have the full Assassin's Creed set, so we're going to dig into that. There's a Modern Pro Tour this weekend, and then maybe a couple of other topics at the end if we get to them. Modern prices, some Secret Lair stuff, some new decks in Modern. But before we jump into it today, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, and Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them with Card Conduit. You can use our curated service and send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use a sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. Either way, you'll get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once the order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic, and let's start with today's news. We'll get into Assassin's Creed in a minute, but first, we got a BNR update today. And not only a BNR update, this is the once a year standard banned window. If you remember from last year, when they canceled rotation and made all these changes, part of those changes was with standard, we're only going to ban cards once a year. It's going to be 6 weeks or so before rotation. I think maybe it's a month before rotation now, if you consider Bloomberg pre-release or whatever. But anyway, right before rotation, Richard, what do we get on this epic BNR update?
No changes in all formats. Standard is very healthy. Every other format, because Modern Horizons 3 just released, we don't know what's up. But here's some scary cards. And then they listed some scary cards, which are basically Nadu, Ruby Medallion, Ral, stuff like that. And then Modern Pro Tour is happening this weekend. That's a weird one. But Standard basically going to be untouched going to rotation, right?
Yeah. So I think, it's interesting. On one hand, I don't know if there's anything you really needed to ban in Standard right now. Like, is there anything that you can think of, Krim, that like really has to go?
To be honest with you, no. Standard is absurdly healthy, so I'm excited. They didn't ban anything.
On the other hand, I don't know if I like this system. I kind of agree with Krim, like no changes for this update, like is fine, but it's so weird to me that you'd make a system where the only ban window is right before rotation. And then if you read today's announcement, they said we consider banning a few cards, with Atraxa, Grand Unifier, and Night Errant of Eos being the leading candidates, but it's difficult to predict what exactly will happen after each rotation. And I was like, that isn't this like some faulty logic going on here? Like if our only ban window is going to be at the one time when we don't actually want to make changes because we don't know what's going to happen after rotation, shouldn't we have the ban window be like in February or something? Wouldn't like as far away from rotation as possible be like the most productive time to have this one ban window? No.
This is what you do when you don't want to do your job. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like they're just trying to dodge declaring anything, right? Because if you put it in a good time, you have to take action, or you have to have good reason not to take action. But here they're like, well, there's no point in really doing anything, so might as well not do anything, right?
Yeah.
But contrast that to last time we had this. They just rotated like half of Eldraine out, right? They didn't even wait for rotation. But then you would argue that it was so dead at that point. Like, why did they have to wait this long? So it still goes back to Seth's argument that it should be more aptly timed. And I think it needs to be like in the middle.
Yeah.
Right, like they can't put it right after a set release either, right? Because then they're gonna be like, well, the new set has released and the meta has changed, and we're not sure how it's gonna end up. So we don't really want to do anything dramatic because maybe players will adjust to the meta game. Right? We got that one canned. We can't say too close to rotation. So you gotta just split it and put it right in the middle. But they should just get away with the schedule. Does anyone care about the schedule? Like just ban when you think things need bannings, and then don't do anything when you don't think they do, right? And I would certainly hope Wizards is looking at the format like every 2 weeks, every month anyway, right? Like I hope they're not actually just waiting till like literally last week to be like, hey, let's look at standard right now and let's see what's going on, right?
Pull up the Goldfish metagame page. What's going on this week?
We're
they
good.
should be looking at it regularly, and whatever when they see there's an issue, they should just act on it and then declare it fine otherwise, like rather than having this weird window and then no one's happy with it. And I'm not sure, the result is
I
good.
will. So I will say, I agree with you. I would rather have them do it that way, but I have seen people that feel the opposite. I actually saw today, just like on social media, talking to people about this. There were some people that were like, this actually like gives me confidence to know that they're not going to ban my cards. It makes me feel safe to like buy a standard deck because it shows that Wizards isn't going to ban anything. So that's part of what Wizards kind of had wanted to do with this change, was like make people feel comfortable paying $80 for a Shieldred or whatever, because you wouldn't have to worry that it might just get banned randomly. So even though it's not how I would manage the format or like how I would enjoy it the most, it does seem like at least some people are having a positive impact out of this. So what do you think, Grim? If you control the ban list, when would you make the announcement if you were in charge of this? Do you think if you do it once a year, when would be the best time?
Well, first off, I guess my question before I answer how I handle the ban list isn't the whole reason this schedule exists? Isn't it so that if there is a card that is problematic, they have the time, there's always guaranteed a window that they could be like, okay, cool, we can ban this in 3 months. We know that we can ban this in 3 months. But that doesn't exclude them from doing emergency bans. So they still would do an emergency ban despite, these banning windows. Isn't that a thing that they've said, or am I just making that up?
So sort of, yeah. I mean, exactly. So they did mention like the possibility of emergency bannings, but they also made it sound like it was kind of like an Oko thing. Like we make some tragic mistake in the newest set and we just can't wait the rest of the year. So exactly what would qualify as an emergency banning? Like, let's say Nightmare of Eos actually is a problem after rotation, or Atraxa. Would that be an emergency banning after the fall set? I don't know. Who knows? Or maybe we're just talking about nothing because none of this actually matters and Wizards just going to ban cards when they want to anyway, and all of this is just noise. That is also a possibility.
They're gonna change the policy in 3 months anyway. Like that's like Wizards always like lays out this grand scheme, and then they like mulligan it anyway. So like it doesn't matter what they promise, right? Because in 2 months they're like, wow, this 1 year ban window is like too rigid, so we're gonna go do this thing, and everyone's like, okay, cool, right? Like, so I feel it doesn't actually matter what they say. They just do what they want, and anything qualifies for an emergency. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, like whether I don't know what their metrics are for an emergency ban.
Has gone down 10%, boys. Big standard.
Ban Atraxa, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think banning a truck will help their stock, but
They should have like their shareholders vote for bannings. That's the democratic way to do it.
yeah, there it is.
There it is. There it is.
I mean, in all honesty, like how to get back to the question that you asked, because I was curious, because it would be closer to this. In that I have these guaranteed windows, right, where I'm gonna ban something, or I'm not guaranteed to ban something, but these are windows where I for sure address the meta, and kind of, and if there is a card that is so bad, or not even so bad, I guess like pretty darn bad, I'd probably then do an emergency banning or put it out with those windows. I think I'm way more tolerant though of a lot more things. I don't feel like there are many things that need to be emergency banned. And maybe that's because, I've played through some of the worst standard formats. And like, I don't think Jace the Mind Sculptor, I don't think it's a bad format, but I do think that I loved Cobblade, but I think that with the outcry of like how things are now, I don't think Jace would have made it like 3 months past the initial once whatever Bloodbraid and all that rotated. Once that rotated out of standard, Jace took over, and then I think in those windows Jace would have been banned.
It's probably true. I don't think, I mean, because Jace actually made it kind of a long ways, right? Wasn't it like the summer before rotation that it finally got banned? Yeah. So it actually made it through most of its standard life.
Exactly. So because I've played through so many bad, or what people perceive as bad standards, and I mean, I played through even like the Skull Clamps, which was actually awful, and all of those formats. Having played through them all, I think this has made me way more tolerant. And it's like, oh, this card isn't as offensive as that meta. So yeah. I think in the grand scheme of things, I probably would run it the way it currently kind of is, but be maybe a little more transparent that, oh yeah, hey, maybe we are taking like more communication, right? Because you look at like other games like TFT and the like Riot, Mort Dog, right? Like he's the like head dude there. He is known for like every weekly patch, and even if there's not many changes, he types like a 30-page essay on why it is the way it is. And I really appreciate the transparency of that, right? So I think that's the only difference that I would do right now. I would be way more transparent on like some cards that, hey, yeah, we know Shealdred's bothering you, but get good, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
Or these are things that I would probably ask for if I ran the ban list. Otherwise, I think it's cool the way it is.
So as far as other formats, no modern changes makes sense with the Pro Tour coming up with Modern Horizons 3. The Legacy one was kind of interesting. Legacy players really want Grief ban because Grief is like, I've heard so many complaints, even more so than modern players. The Legacy crowd, oh my goodness, Grief is really brutal in Legacy. And if you read the announcement, Wizards, I think, gave a little wink to that crowd where they said, yeah, we're doing it the same as Modern Horizons 3. We just got this shake up. But don't worry, we're going to take a hard look at Legacy in our August announcement. So I would not be surprised if that's like kind of foreshadowing the end of Grief in August, if nothing drastically changes over the next couple of months. But it'll be interesting to see how things shake out. I think like this announcement's fine. Standard's been fine. It's been better than I would have expected for the past year. And hopefully it remains to be good through rotation. And hopefully if something is really out of whack, they will just, bite the bullet in emergency manner, even if they don't want to. So anyway, any other banning thoughts?
I have something to inject in here. Kind of related, not on our docket, but Daybreak updated their API to release all of the Magic Online match data. Now, it's down currently. I don't know if it may be because Wizards like, yo, what are you doing? Or like they're down for technical reasons. I don't know. But this is unprecedented because this gives, for the first time, access to the same data that Wizards uses to control these exact BNRs. So every time they reference like matchup win data, card win data in Modern Legacy Vintage, it's all pulled from Moto. And all of this, as of like last week, is currently available in raw format for us to have a go at it. And, I've been working on it. Other people have been working on it, but we're going to get the data and we're going to be able to tell like straight up, like, if you have Grief in your deck, your win percentage is this versus not this. We can tell you the matchups, Grief versus whatever. So it will be interesting to see how Wizards handles BNR going forth when they can't hide behind, like, oh, but we have the data, guys, this, right? Because the community will have the data too. And it'll be interesting to see what happens from there. My guess is Wizards going to take down the data real quick. That is my guess because from as long as I run Goldfish, this goes against Wizards' wishes. So I was very shocked when Daybreak was like, here, guys, have at it. So I am speculating it's currently down because Wizards like, yo, what are you doing? Right? But if we have all the data, we would have like literally like all the matches being played, all the league data, like everything, non-curated. We would see exactly what's going on in Legacy and Vintage, right? And we can't really say like get good, local metagame, that kind of stuff, right? Like we'd actually have the data and then we can compare it to Wizards. So if this sticks and stays through, I think this is going to change the way Wizards does BNR, right? Because up
It
until
would.
now, they've been going like, oh, that's community narrative, right? We got the real data. This is what really happens. So it will
Yeah.
change that dynamic, and we'll see what happens if that holds.
Oh, I hope it's real, because do you remember when we used to do like I forget the exact numbers, but like hundreds of thousands of games of Modern analyzed
Yeah.
articles before we had to stop doing them because Wizards didn't, they took down the ability, right, to gather the data from Magic Online back then. So it would be so cool, even just outside of bannings, like so many games are like this now, right? Isn't it the norm that games like have an API where people can look at Hearthstone and like the win rates, even stuff like 17 lands? Maybe it'll go this time though, because they haven't shut down 17 lands on Arena and the Arena trackers that are also like pretty in depth. Like, yes, it's limited to the pool of people who signed up for the tracker, so that's not as great as the Moto API, but still they haven't shut any of that down. So maybe we're in a new world now, or maybe Wizards just doesn't care about Magic Online and it'll slide through for that reason. That's also a possibility.
Magic Online is the gateway to all the eternal formats, though, right? So this is Modern, Pioneer, Legacy, Vintage data. I guess theoretically Commander data, if that ever takes off as well. But it would be certainly a new leaf for Magic if they were just open with all this data. And then it'd be so interesting just to see, when they're like, grief is fine. Like, is it actually fine or is it not fine? Right? Like, I'm actually curious to see what it looks like.
Yeah, they've definitely had some BNRs where they refer to like their internal data or like our numbers, but they don't really share what they are, and everyone's kind of like scratching their head and like, this doesn't line up with our perception of the meta. So it'd be very cool to, if it does work out that way, to actually have something concrete to look at when bannings and whatnot happen. So, what do you think the odds are, Richard? Do you think it's dead? Do you think there's any realistic chance it stays up?
So I personally think that you do not want this level of data. Like, if you use like the Hearthstone trackers, it takes the fun out of the game, right? Like, at some point it's too much, and it's like using a cheat code, right? For the first hour, you're like, oh my god, I'm invincible. This is amazing. But then after a while, you're like, why am I even thinking about the game? Like, the tracker tells me the win rates and literally everything. I just choose a thing, right? So I used to be hardly against Wizards, and over the years, I've come in line with them. Having said that, I'm still a data nerd. If this data is available, we're releasing. We're going to process and release all of it because I find it super interesting, right? But
Yeah,
like, if it's available, you have to use it for your advantage if you're trying to be sweaty. But I feel Wizards shouldn't really allow this, and they don't want to allow this. Like, literally every single match being played, you have the data on. That's very powerful, and especially in this game where we complain it gets too stale too quickly, gets solved too quickly, and all that stuff. Like, instead of being solved in like, what's Modern at, like 2 weeks right now, right? Maybe it'll be solved in like 4 weeks. It'll be solved in literally like 2 days, right? You would hone in on the optimal build of Nadu quite quickly, right? And then people still do this. So every day I get requests on Magic Online to scrub their results. So like, a lot of the top players in Magic Online do not want their results because they don't want people to know what deck they're on or what deck they're brewing. When you line up with someone, you can actually just search them up and be like, oh, this is their sideboard, right? So if people are being sweaty like that, like, just imagine like just every match being available, right? So I think Wizards will take it down, but if it's up, you got to use it, right? If you're trying to win a challenge or something, wouldn't you like to know your literal exact matchup spread, right? Like, don't you want to know how well your sideboard cards do? Like, you got to use it, right? So yeah,
there's not really a way around it if you want to be competitive. I have the opposite worry where now people are going to see all the games I lose trying to record against the odds. They're going to be like, oh, type in my name, and be like, oh, look at that, he went 0-20 today.
My privacy.
Anyway, any other thoughts before we move on to some Assassin's Creed? So this week, or last week actually, was Assassin's Creed spoilers. We got the full set out, and I'm very curious. So this set is Modern legal and Modern, back through Vintage and in Commander. It's kind of like Aftermathy, sort of. It's like a booster product, but it's 7-card boosters, no commons in the set, all uncommons up through Mythics. Curious what you guys think of this set. So is there anything for Modern in here, I guess, is my question. Because I went into this thinking, oh, this is going to be like a Modern supplemental. We just got Modern Horizons 3. Now maybe we get a One Ring or a Bowmasters or something for Modern. After seeing this set, though, It's a commander set, right? Like, if I squint really hard, there's a couple cards where I'm like, maybe that could see a tiny bit of modern play, but I'm not seeing a One Ring or Bowmasters or even like a Lauren's Revealed or something. But what do you guys think? Like, what do you think of this set?
To be honest with you, I like as someone who does not know a single thing about Assassin's Creed, I am truly just looking at it for the functionality of cards. I yeah,
You know who
I don't.
Cleopatra is.
I
You know about Excalibur.
I do. I guess I know Da Vinci and Socrates and all of that, but like, there's really only thing is, I guess it's cool to see Sword of Feast and Famine reprinted. Does Stoneblade still exist in Modern?
You do not play Sword of Feast and Famine in Stoneblade.
Yeah.
Sick. All right, then. I guess in that case, then this whole set so far, this is definitely a commander set. But every time we declare, I've learned to be very cautious about what I declare a commander set, because when there's a commander set, all of a sudden something takes over the meta. So what I will say is that, yeah, this is of a more generous power level in some ways, other than not. Otherwise, I do think it does look kind of weak. Way too weak for Modern.
I mean, I think the set is great playing only 2 Assassin's Creeds. However, it is not power creepy enough. Therefore, 99% of players will write it off. Right? Like, I am convinced if you take Lord of the Rings and you remove Orcish Bowmasters and the One Ring, 99% of players wouldn't care about it. You know, like as the set was being released, we'd be all hyped. We'd be like, yeah, Lord of the Rings, yeah, rah, rah, right? But like 6 months after, we'd forget about it. Like Warhammer. Like Warhammer has strong cards, flavorful, good set, but it didn't like power creep every format, so we don't remember it. Like every week a Bowmasters hits us in the face and we remember, oh, well, Lord of the Rings, greatest set of all time, right? So because Assassin's Creed does not have a card like that, you're just not going to remember, right? Like you might randomly see an Assassin's Creed Commander deck one day, but you're not going to see like the One Ring in every game, in every format. So I feel you'll never hit Lord of the Rings peak until Wizards decides like this is the power creep set. And like you'll remember Modern Horizons 3 for a long time because it's the power creep set, right? It's just not Universes Beyond. But I don't know what IP would be the favored one. Would it be Final Fantasy? Will it be Marvel? But one of them will be like the Wizards' favorite, where they actually just power creep everything. And then you'll have like Spider-Man and Modern in every deck, right? But like if you actually think of Lord of the Rings, like do we see Gandalf? You know, do you see Aragorn? Normal? Like no, right? They're all kind of just gone. It's just it's just like Orcish Bowmasters. It's Lorien Revealed. It's all the stupid cycle ones that you see in Modern. So it's power creep, not really flavor or how tight it is and all that people remember. So Assassin's Creed was not chosen by Wizards to be power creepy.
I mean, isn't the idea though, like, or I'm just happy, I guess, that outside of the Horizon sets, like when it comes to a new set, maybe only a grip full of cards make it into like the older formats. Isn't that how it's always kind of been anyways?
But you need like a One Ring type card, right? Like unless you care about like, I don't know, like what's the most playable card? Your Tax Collector might make it into Modern, maybe, right? But like even if it's like a role player fringe card, you're not going to remember it, right? It kind of needs to be like an ultra staple that fits in multiple archetypes or is like Nadu defining, right? Like kind of just makes a whole deck and like does the thing. But like Haystack, Regalia, Excalibur, right? Like they're cool cards, right? Like I think Assassin's Creed fans would be happy with it.
I think Rest in Peace could break into Modern.
Yeah, that might have a chance. We might see some Rest in Peace.
I think Fatal Push could break it into Modern. That's for sure.
I mean, maybe it's a good thing, right? Like we've had this weird argument in the community over like how good do we want, you know, some people don't want Universes Beyond at all, but how good do we want Universes Beyond to be? Do we want these cards to be showing up all the time in formats like Modern? So it's a little weird to complain about Universes Beyond breaking your immersion or like showing up too much and then being upset when the set's not strong enough to see play. So maybe this is like a good landing spot for it. It's just weird. I think what's different for me compared to Warhammer, let's say, or something, is this is like a modern set. Like a lot of the universes beyond are commander decks. This one's like in booster packs and it is like explicitly modern legal. So that's what's like a little bit strange about it. I was expecting it to kind of be like Lord of the Rings in the sense that most of the set would be like commandery and power down, but there'd probably be one or two cards that they like, a handful of cards that they maybe push to show up in modern. But I'm having a hard time finding any cards that they really push to show up in modern. Like Tax Collector, maybe. There's also the 2-drop that you can like pay 1 to make your opponent's stuff lose hexproof and indestructible and all that. Like that one maybe in like the right meta or the right matchup could be good. But I was kind of surprised. What about Commander? Like, is this just a low powered set, period? Or is this a strong Commander set that just doesn't line up with modern?
I mean, I think this boosts a very, you would never guess it, but 2 archetypes.
Assassins looking good, that's for sure. Yep.
Yeah, not even good,
wow.
guys. All the assassins do like it's like Transformers. You're like, I want to build a Transformers deck, but you're like, they all just do random different crap, and you can't actually shove them all together into the same deck. I tried building an assassin deck. It's like half of them deal with historic, half of them deal with like vehicles and pirates, half of them are free running. You're like, what is this? I can't even like just jam them together into a coherent deck. So it's super awkward. I would put it exactly like Transformers. You cannot make an Autobots deck. You're like, this doesn't actually make any sense whatsoever. But that's the most logical thing anyone would ever do. Right? You're like, I'm playing Transformers. What do I want to do?
Yeah, I'm a Transformer playing. Put them all together.
Right? But you're like, why did you need like 18 different mechanic and archetypes in here that none of this works together, right? So I don't know about that part of it, but I can see what they're trying to do though. They wanted to give you different archetypes so you can build multiple different Assassin's Creed decks, but that strangely enough makes you can't like make a deck out of all these cards together, right? So that'd be my one complaint about this set, actually.
It might have been easier if the theme wasn't assassins. Like if it was a like a card type that had more support in Magic, it would be a lot easier. But Assassins, you're coming from like such a low baseline, right? That like you kind of need Assassin's Creed itself to carry your Assassins deck, just because Assassins haven't been like that heavily supported over the course of Magic's history. So I think that is like an interesting issue. I think it's what you said though. Like they want people to be able to build like an Edward Kenaway deck that's different than another Assassin deck and have them all like kind of do their own thing. So I think that's what they're kind of going for. You can definitely see the eye on Commander there, where like a lot of them are designed to be commanders for your Commander deck. The one thing that I think really has going for, or the reprints are good. Krim mentioned Sword of Feast and Famine. There's Sword of Light and Shadow. There's Temporal Trespass. There's Black Market Connections. There's the Horizon Lands. There's Rest in Peace. So it seems like Wizards, it's kind of like the old fetch land trick, where when Wizards would put a fetch lands in a set, maybe the set isn't that strong, and Wizards wanted to make sure they had something in there to like kind of juice it a little bit. I feel like they really juiced the reprints in this set in case people were like, these new cards don't look super, strong or whatever. At least you could open like some really, really solid reprints. My question for you now is though, do you think this set will sell well? It's $132 for a 24 packs of 7 card boosters. That's the current price on Amazon. My worry is like the aftermath thing again, right? Like I'm surprised they did this, because like with Aftermath, people made it pretty clear they didn't like paying full price for like mini packs, and this looks a little bit the same to me. The reprints help, like there's in these mini packs, there's pretty good chance you're gonna open a sword or something that's like $40 or whatever it drops to you now that it's reprinted. But I don't know. I don't think I would buy a booster pack of this. Is this just for Assassin's Creed fans? Is that the hope that they're gonna like go?
What do they cut in the pack? They just cut some commons. Like there's no way they cut the rare, right? These are play boosters.
You still get a
cut
rare.
all the commons, I think, right?
There's
all the commons.
There's no commons. You can get more than one rare. They're basically like play boosters without any commons in them, and I think you're guaranteed a foil.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, why did you just make normal packs? I don't know why we have to do, like, we podcast Magic the Gathering. We don't even know what's in here. And how's a normal person supposed to understand this? But I still think it's power level. I think if there was a one ring, like I think you literally make the set, except there is a one ring in Orcish Bowmasters in here. This set would sell like gangbusters. And I would say it's very close to Lord of the Rings in that the flavor is not disgusting to Universes Beyond haters. It looks
Yeah.
and feels like a Magic set. Contrast that to, like, say, Doctor Who. You're like, what is this? Right? But this looks like Lord of the Rings, right? This looks like it's fantasy, assassins thing. The only thing throwing you off is like, why is Da Vinci here? Right? But if you ignore that,
Yeah,
like
that
the
part's a little
art of
weird.
all the cards looks like a normal Magic set. So I don't think the Universes Beyond haters have much to hate about this. So I think it's just power level. If it had super stapley cards in Commander and Modern, we'd be all over it. But instead, it's just like, well, it's for Assassin's Creed fans, and it's fine, right? Like, I think, and then it's also wedged between the two hottest sets of the year, right?
Yeah.
Which I think will destroy its sales numbers, right? Like, have you even gotten your Modern Horizons 3 cards yet, right? Because remember, Modern
Nope.
Horizons 3, like, pre-release happened, and then Assassin's Creed spoilers, right? Like, I haven't even, like, have you even built anything yet, right? And then coming down the pipeline is Bloomborough, like the most hyped standard set that that's been hyped up for like a really long in a long time, right? So I think it's just kind of screwed, right? It's a small weird set that's underpowered between the two hottest sets of the year, and we'll continue talking about Modern Horizons 3 over the next
Yeah.
couple of weeks, right? Like, nothing from Assassin's Creed will disrupt it unless, wait, does the Pro Tour include Assassin's Creed? It doesn't, right? It's not out yet.
No, it doesn't
No.
officially release till
No.
the weekend after the Pro Tour. Yeah, so no Assassin's Creed at the Pro Tour. It reminds me a little bit of Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate, where it had this like awkward timing issue where it was in between. What was it that year? Do you remember? I remember one was Commander Masters, because that's where all the reprints came, like a month after Commander Legends Baldur's Gate. And then what was the set? Was it Modern Horizons 2? Was that the set before it? There was a popular set before it. And at the time, Commander Legends Baldur's Gate got really trashed. People thought the set was bad. It looked underpowered. They didn't like it. People didn't buy it. Now, 2 years, 3 years later, people really like this set. And it's a set you see a lot of people saying, wow, this set was actually really good. We kind of missed it at the time. But I think the timing really does play an important role. Like, if everyone just spent all their money on Modern Horizons 3, or they're saving it for Bloomborough because those are the sets they're really hyped about, it might be that Assassin's Creed is the one that gets cut. And then you got the mini booster thing on top of it, which adds another layer of like, if someone's thinking, I have $120 to spend on Magic cards, you're going to have some people that are like, I would rather spend that on Bloomborough, where I get, 15 cards in a pack, than on Assassin's Creed, where I get 7 cards in a pack. So I think you had all those things together, and I'm going to be very curious to see how it ends up. I don't think this is going to be a super high selling set, but who knows? Maybe Assassin's Creed fans just carry because the game is like super popular or something.
I think that this is gonna have, because of how bad Aftermath was, and I think that these cards, if you want them, they're gonna be absurdly pricey though. Have you seen how expensive Aftermath cards are now?
Wait, is it
No
because
one
the set
opened
was
it.
absurdly unpopular and therefore no one
Yeah,
liked
it was.
No one
No
opened
one
it.
opened it.
It's the
But
secret
then,
layer
like,
logic.
people are
again.
realizing, yeah, right. Like it is though, and you may not know this, but there's FOMO now on Aftermath, because if you want that Nissa's expensive. I was like, that everybody knew that Nissa was expensive from the get go, but then like Calyx is randomly expensive. All these cards from the set are just randomly pricey, for way too pricey. So I don't know. I'm like, well, should I buy this if I want some of these cards, or is this going to be like absurdly expensive?
I could see this actually kind of piggybacks on something else I wanted to talk about. So good transition, Grim. I could see it actually being worth it, because I think these cards are going to be tricky to reprint, because Wizards has talked a little bit about, like, with these big Universes Beyond sets, they're not intending to do like a full in-universe set. They can like individually make in-universe versions of some cards if they need to. So I think like the Cleopatra or whatever, these are probably all the copies of Cleopatra that are going to be printed probably forever, like literally forever. So there's a good chance if no one opens a set, and then 3 years from now, someone really wants Cleopatra, or there's some perfect commander card that goes with it, those cards could end up getting pretty expensive. And what got me thinking of this was the One Ring. I don't know if you guys have seen the One Ring prices lately. Like, I was working on the finance update for the weekend, and I didn't realize the One Ring, it was like $40 not that long ago. Like it was like $45 for the cheapest version, but it is just since January 1st. It was $38 in December. Since January 1st, it is up to the cheapest version currently being $82 for the bundle promo. And the normal pack version over 100, all the other versions, you have some that are 200, the one of one, of course, millions. But is this an issue? Like I'm starting to come a little concerned about Modern prices again. Because of cards like the One Ring, $82 a copy, you need 4 copies, and I don't know if Wizards can really reprint this card. Like, they can do an in-universe version, theoretically, at some point, but it's not like they can just stick it in a Commander precon or even in a Masters set, because it's the One Ring, and they don't own the One Ring. That's Gollum's hand on there or whatever, and they don't own Gollum. They can only use it for, a limited period of time. Do you think there's any worry? Should I be worried about this or no? Am I freaking out about nothing?
The
Wait,
One Ring is not
so hold on. Let me get
trademarked.
this
Let me
straight.
Google this.
Yeah, like I guess I have a little bit of a question about that. Do we know if they can only okay, maybe they can't reprint the One Ring, but functionally, right? They could hypothetically make it like, the Godzilla border treatment, right? Like if, I don't know, they made a Sonic super or like secret layer and they just made
I think it would have to be, my understanding, because I've been researching a little bit, my understanding based on what like Marrow has said and they've said, is it would have to be like the Walking Dead cards, where they can print like an in-universe version with a magic character name and so forth, but they can't use words or art or phrases that are owned by the other IP. So like maybe the One Ring slips through, maybe the One Ring's generic enough that doesn't actually count as Lord of the Rings IP. I know like Arwen or Aragon or something, they can't put those words on a card unless they pay whoever owns Lord of the Rings to do it. So they couldn't actually reprint those. They could print Bob and print the same rules text as Aragon on it and have the Bob version or whatever, like they did with Rick in the Walking Dead cards, essentially. Yeah. So I think that's how they could reprint the cards. Whether or not the One Ring itself, maybe it's generic enough that there wouldn't be any licensing issues if they didn't have any Lord of the Rings art on it. It seems like a tough sell after the One Ring thing and how big of a news story that was to be like, no, this isn't really connected to Lord of the Rings, but maybe it would work.
I mean, Orcish Bowmasters.
That's got to be generic
I
enough,
can
right?
get if you're trying to
Bowmaster
reprint
should be
Gandalf, but I don't think you can trademark the One Ring. And like Krim said, like worst case, you make it, Urza's ring, right, or whatever, and then you print that one. So I don't think it's an issue really. It's just Wizards won't move on it. They're gonna bank up this reprint equity for a while, and they're gonna use this as a way to push it out. And I don't know that it even matters because we're probably gonna power creep the One Ring pretty soon, aren't we? Like, dude,
wow, that would be impressive. Maybe they power creep the One Ring. How quickly
like think
can they
about the
actually power
cards we
creep?
were clamoring about like from 2 years ago. Do MMC play anymore? Like I don't know what it was. I don't remember. Whatever Modern Horizons card we were talking about, like it's been supplanted, right? So maybe they just get power crept out, or there's alternatives. But if Cleopatra takes off, I'm sure Wizards will devise a way to cash in on that. Okay, like as soon as they feel the time is right, they will do it. And the easiest way is to make Urza's ring or whatever, and then call it a day. There's no way, right? Or they can actually just do it. Like we don't know what the contract says, right? Like Lord of the Rings, would you like more money? Yes. Okay, we're gonna reprint a Lord of the Rings product, right? Like I can't imagine it going that poorly, right? Because they made presumably Lord of the Rings Tolkien estate made a lot of money off this, and they'll take more money, right? So I would actually look for Lord of the Rings Part 2.
Yeah, that is a possibility.
From the Amazon series comes the next Magic the Gathering set, and then in it they'll use Orcish Bowmasters and the One Ring to sell it.
How bad would it be for Magic if they did have to print Urza's ring? What if they did have to go that direction? Like, isn't that a weird solution to have one of the most played cards in Modern have 2 different names, but technically be the same card? And like, you can't have the One Ring in the deck along with Urza's ring because they're technically the same card, but their names are different. Like
that's every secret layer, Seth.
That's not that.
Like we have
not any
names
different
all the time now, right?
Yeah. So far though, those are mostly like commander only cards that don't actually see play. I mean, it's still like an awkward solution, but we've never had that with like a tournament staple that's everywhere. I think most people just forgot about Walking Dead cards or whatever and like moved on to the next secret lair drop. Could you imagine if we ended up in a world where there's like happens to a lot of cards though? Like every card is 2 cards. We already talked about cards having so many different card styles. What if they each have a whole bunch of different names to get rid of around IP laws? Doesn't sound like the
I
best
feel that
future.
falls lower on the totem pole than literally unreadable secret lair cards. Right? Like at least if you read the card, you're like, look, it's the One Ring. I know, right? Whereas you're like, here's some cereal box thing, right? I'm like, what is the you just eat breakfast? Like, what's going on, right? Like, what is this font? I can't read anything. So I feel it's better than like textless double-faced cards or whatever. So I feel that's
that
just
might be true.
You need to know this if you're a sweaty grinder, that the One Ring and Urza's Ring is the same thing. And I'm sure some commander player will get got by putting them both in their deck, but
DQ.
DQ
Get them out of here,
out of their
Judge.
own house.
Get
ban
out of
them
this
from the
command
LGS
fest.
forever.
Yeah. No, yeah, like I agree with Richard there. That just doesn't seem like that big of a deal, right? Like it's like whatever. Like I think we already have so many different borders and things like that. Just treat it like a different showcase style.
Yeah, maybe that's fair. Maybe that'll be fine. Well, we will see how that shakes out. But let's talk about Modern. We have a Modern Pro Tour coming up this weekend from Magic Fest Amsterdam, whatever the proper title is. But coming from Europe, it's Modern, featuring Modern Horizons 2. And I'm really curious what you guys are expecting out of this event. So we talked a lot about Modern last week. Ruby Storm, Boros Energy, the Nadu decks, Eldrazi decks, Tron decks making a comeback. Jeskai Control is like the new hotness of this week that kind of emerged out of nowhere. It's a Jeskai Energy Control deck. What do you guys think about this new Energy Control deck? And then we'll talk a bit about the Pro Tour.
I mean, like I first off, it shows that at least there was an inkling of the correct idea when it came to deck building on stream. I was like, I wonder if you could make just control good again, right? And but I obviously my numbers and like fine tuning this deck. I think whoever won the challenge or whatever definitely fine tuned it way better than I did. But like, holy crap,
There's so many one-ofs.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of one-ofs and tech cards and one dress down, one invert polarity.
But that's why, like, at the same time, like, this, people are always like, Krim, why do you only play one of bunch of random cards? Why do you pretty much play Commander in Modern every format? These deck lists are great. The one-ofs are great for utility, different situations, especially when you have to play a control deck in Modern, the widest format possible, that isn't like, this is exactly what you need. And when you back that up with the One Ring, nice mention there. When you back that up with the One Ring, you most likely will see these cards, right? like you will most likely see them. And then like if you're worried about the life loss, Flage offsets that. And most importantly, Snapcaster Mage back in decks. Yo, let's talk. Like that. All I see is scoreboard here. That is Snapcaster on the board, right? Snapcaster getting played again, dude. Nature is healing, my dude. It's good again.
So, Richard, is the takeaway from this that Control's back or that Flage is busted? What are your thoughts on this deck?
The takeaway is the One Ring is here. I think is what's enabling all of this. But
wait,
Flage
really?
being randomly in a deck, very good, right? It's not. We haven't seen it in like one shell and like it dominate in that shell, right? It is literally going into very, very different archetypes of different colors, and you might argue that people are including colors to add Flage, right? Which is like the ultimate sign of respect. So Flage is the real deal. This list is very One Ring heavy. Like the only way to get your one-ofs is the One Ring and just power through and draw your deck. What's interesting to me is Arena of Glory is in here, the Exert land, the haste. When Control wants to turn the corner, it needs Arena of Glory, right? And presumably for that Flage over there. But the main engine is the 1-mana cantrip that adds energy, Galvanic Discharge, and then Wrath Disguise. 2-mana Wrath turns out it's pretty good. And then you can even Snapcaster 2-mana Wrath as well, right? So like, and then
lives.
And then don't worry, Commander plays. It looks like a Commander deck because we got Invert Polarity, which is a 3-mana commandeer if you win the coin flip, otherwise only a cancel. And then sink into stupor as well. Like we're playing like tapped MDFCs, or that's the 3-life MDFC. So this is hot. But this is
Well, Richard.
this is
Richard,
a one
Richard,
ring
you're
deck.
Not, you're not
I've
mentioning
never
the
seen
sideboard.
a one ring deck so hard in my life. Like, you see a random
Dude.
black pile and you're like, that is being carried by the scam package, right? Like, yes, the other cards can like do something, but it's hard carried. I don't think this deck exists without the one ring. Like the one ring has to be holding it together, right?
Half the modern
Richard,
decks I
Richard.
play wouldn't exist without the one ring. That's
What are you gonna do? Like,
that's
think
how
twice for card advantage? Like
that's
desperate ravings? Like, no, man, you gotta
Is-
one ring it down.
as much as I
Yo,
think
don't disrespect Think Twice. Okay, first off.
as much as I think the one ring is like an overpowered, like too good card, it does let you play any pile. Like you can play pretty much any pile of cards, and if you throw 4 one rings in there, it's kind of like the commander philosophy where we talk about like, oh, I'm building some like birds or some horrible tribe, and you're like, oh well, I gotta have Toski because I need to draw a lot of birds because birds are really bad. That's all my modern decks now. We're like, oh, I got the one ring. My cards are horrible, but I'll just draw so many of them that I'm gonna win some games with it because of the one ring. So, Krim, have you got to play with Wrath of Skies at all yet? Even not in modern, even necessarily.
Yeah.
How good is that? That's a card that's really interesting, right? You like, if you have the energy, it's a 2-mana Wrath for essentially all non-land permanents. How strong is it?
It's good. Wrath of the Skies is sick. I won't lie to you. I haven't had the modern itch for a while.
Is this deck going
For
to
a
get you back?
while.
Are you going to be back
But,
in
like,
modern controlling?
This deck looks kind of sick, dude. Like, and then on top of that, Richard, what you didn't mention was Consigned to Memory, also in the sideboard, which is a blue and replicate 1. Counter target triggered ability of colorless spell or triggered ability.
Oh,
I mean, so and it has
Yeah.
replicate. So Stifle has replicate. Yo, that's kind of sick, right? Like, there's a lot of things about maybe Modern Horizons 3 is what finally gets Modern to be in a place where I want to play again, right? Like this looks good. And Wrath of the Skies has been solid. Like an actual solid card. Tune the Narratives, it may not seem like much, but I think having played a variant of this deck, Tune the Narrative is insanely good. Like it is such a good setup spell, and it's not like the one that's gonna jump off the pages, like, oh my god, Flage, right? But like or Wrath of the Skies. But what makes Wrath of the Skies tick is the Tune the Narrative. I like being able to just clean sweep everything. This is a sweet board wipe that I could not imagine, like to levels unknown. And yeah, sure, the One Ring is gonna be a heavy backbone to like a lot of decks, like you had mentioned, along with the light scam package. Well, not really scam, but Solitude. Like Solitude's good. Like the Elementals are obviously good. Flage has been phenomenal. So I think this deck is, if you play Control, I think this is looking, Jeskai is back on the menu, baby.
It's kind of impressive because the meta is still very wide open in Modern right now. Thanks to Modern Horizons 3, you got like Nadu decks and Storm decks, you got Tron decks, you got the old leftovers from before Modern Horizons 3. So it's pretty impressive that Control is managing to find a way to control such a diverse set of decks right now, that in a meta that's just all over the place. What do you guys think of this Pro Tour? Are we going to see this Jeskai Control deck? What are your predictions? Like, what's gonna win? What's gonna be the big narrative out of this tournament? Storm, Nadu,
I mean,
Control.
I think if Control is at the top, Storm comes knocking, right? Which is always the problem. So I hope we see this. I think Ruby Storm is a solid deck. I've been looking it up and then kind of getting into the world of Modern again. So I don't know. I think that deck is probably gonna be somewhere. It's gonna be very prevalent, especially with how much Control is popping up the weeks before the Pro Tour.
Plus, I mean, the pros. Storm's always overrepresented because you feel really, you get all the intricate, you get to cast a ton of spells. Maybe do you think, Richard, let me ask you, is this version of Storm too easy to be appealing to the best players in Magic compared to like the past where you gotta like, oh, I gotta get my gifts ungiven, and do I get enough mana, and can I flash it back? Those are just like, turn 2, win the game.
I feel so, but that may be the reason Finkel comes back. Finkel's like, yo, I got like 2 hours of prep. What can I play?
I did a
Master
league.
Storm
I
in
did
2
a league.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a league. I know what's going on. All right, let's go. So I don't know. It's like when Jund is the best deck in the format, it becomes a lot less interesting. It's a lot funnier when you see someone like navigate through like this terrible like 40-60 matchup and like actually dunk on someone. But my prediction is the metagame will look wildly different. Like even right now, every day yields new results in the metagame. We didn't talk about this, but turn 1 Trinisphere is back on the table, baby. Right? Like
Yes.
Tron is
Yes.
here. Like the
Back off
metagame
the
is
menu.
so fluid because like you know in football they have the coaching trees where like certain coaches have certain play styles and then the people they train, the assistant coaches take those styles. Like we need to build the tree for modern, which is like scam package, one ring. I don't know what the other one is, monkey or something, right? Like if you descend one of these trees, you win, right? So if you have a one ring type deck, you can go like many different directions, all off the one ring. Like Tron is a one ring deck.
Yep.
So because we have this kind of free for all, I think it's gonna be a wide open format. I think Seth, you you tweeted this. I think it was from Alexander Haid. He's like, modern is a great format. You take your 8 cards, your favorite 8 cards from the past 30 years of Magic, and then add 67 Modern Horizons 1, 2, or 3 cards, and you're good to go. And I kind of feel like that's it, right? Like you start a scam
Yep.
package, you start one ring, maybe something, you know, and then you just add some random pet cards into a deck, and like you're good to go, right? And then you battle, you mid range battle everyone else, and there. So it's gonna be exciting for
I've-
Tour. I wonder if they're
Yeah.
gonna break it. I wonder if someone like actually builds Nadu, or it turns out like I don't know, like Grixis Storm is the best Ruby Storm variant, right? Because you need this thing. And now you're unbeatable, right? So I feel, or this is the best flayed shell. We've seen so many flayed shells. Like, which one is the real one? So I feel the Pro Tour is going to decide that, and it'll be super exciting.
This is the most excited I've been for a Pro Tour in quite a while, because this is right after a set release, and it's modern, and there's just, like you were saying, there's a possibility of new archetypes, but even if there's not brand new archetypes that emerge at this tournament, we don't really know what's the best way to build Necrodominance, what's the best way to build a Storm deck or the Nadu decks. It's so scattered, and so all the control deck, even more like that. Like, do you play Tamios? Do you not play Tamios? It's all over the place. Gonna be really interesting to see what rises to the top, with the best players in the world getting to get their hands on this format. I'm still a little worried about Nadu. I don't think we've talked enough about Nadu, and just from watching the pros talk on social media, it seems like a lot of them are hard at work trying to make Nadu or break Nadu. It'll be interesting to see if that actually is like as dominant as people are afraid it could be. Maybe it's actually Ruby Storm that's the dominant deck, or maybe it's none of these above. Maybe it's something, you know, that's tier 2 right now that people haven't even really focused on since Modern Horizons 3 came
It's a
out.
mirror
That just
control,
rises
baby.
up and yeah.
Wait,
The mirror
no,
control.
like legitimately, Richard sent me this list that was fire. Like it was pure fire.
You
It
know-
was like it played 4 Shadow of Doubts, dude, or
Did it
like
have the-
3 Shadow of Doubts.
Did it have the stupid frog? Oh my god, that frog. I was trying
Yeah,
to.
the frog is so fun.
Wait, what frog is this?
Oh, psychic frog.
Wait.
God,
Oh,
I'm starting to hate that card. I was playing my beloved Blood Moon deck, and I had turn 2 Blood Moon, but my opponent was on the play, so they played a frog first. I was like, oh, I got him. Turn 2 Blood Moon. They couldn't cast a spell the rest of the game. They just discarded their hand to the frog and attacked me 3 times, and I died. It was so bad. Literally, their whole
An
hand.
interaction
they just
check.
pitched it all. Yeah.
Turns out this Stone Rain and Blood Moon does not
Yeah.
stop a giant
Does not stop
frog.
the frog. Yeah.
I mean, like I saw that Demir deck that Richard sent me at like 5-0'd or something, and I have to say I'm in love with that. That is single-handedly restored my love, has made me want to play Modern. So I am currently actually putting that deck together.
you know what's so sad? We talk about all this jank that's 5-0ing. Not a Tarmogoyf to be seen.
Well,
Yeah,
I
of
have
course
tried
not.
so hard. I have not. I have burnt so many chips.
What?
My win rate is like 25%. You know what? It's a trap Emperor Bones, Krim. You tricked me. Emperor Bones sucks.
No, I think you're just. Are you using Emperor Bones correctly? Have you tried? What
Have you tried
what
making
deck
a
are you
4
playing?
mana alive without a
Yeah,
1
wait,
ring keeping
hold
you
on.
alive?
Oh, come on. Dude,
Uh,
every time I've played Emperor of Bones, it's popped up. What?
Oh, I can't make that card work. But why no green?
What are you
Why
what are
no
you
green
putting
in the format? The only green we got, I guess Nadu is green, but like why
Not
no
in,
like
yeah.
actual green beater? Like we don't use those anymore. They don't have enough ETBs and recursion, but no green beaters. I guess Titan is still around, but I'm
Yeah,
shocked
yeah,
that
yeah,
no one has
sorta.
grinded a Tarmogoyf to make this happen.
Oh, one very unrelated note before we get to fish mail. Richard, you added something to our Discord the other day. I thought was kind of funny. It was an ad from Commander on Amazon. what is going on in this Commander ad?
I don't know, but
No.
so they took stock photos for Commander, and it is like the most staged photo I've ever seen. If you're watching the video, you'll pop it up. But like, look how nicely. So everyone's playing unsleeved, obviously. But like, look how the lands are aligned. Like, what Commander player
It's
puts
it's not
lands
even
like that?
I is this AI generated? Is this I
Is this
don't think
AI
a human
generated?
could align their lands that perfectly. It must be some
It is
higher
the
form
most
of intelligence.
grid-like Commander game I've ever seen, and they have like I don't know. They have drinks that are not on coasters on a
No.
on a wooden table,
Right next to
savages, but right
next to their
all the
unsleeved cards, and they're all unsleeved. Yeah, this is like from the 90s. This is how people used to play Magic, I think, in like 1995.
Is this how people play Magic though? Like no cap. Like okay, so we don't play Magic like this, right? But
No.
the rest of the world, is this how they actually play Magic? Because it might be. It might be.
No,
I
I do not
think
believe
that-
people's lands are aligned that nicely. I just can't believe it.
I'm not going to be the one to tell people or like question how people place their lands, but I don't think it's realistic enough because I think the basic knowledge nowadays is that if you play a card game, sleeve your cards. Right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't at this point I'm almost willing to sleeve my like basic like tabletop like table cards like poker cards. So
You know how much
I-
effort that is though to sleeve a deck? Like
Yeah,
dude,
it is
yeah,
some
but,
a
work.
lot
like,
of downtime.
it's
But-
common knowledge now though. There's no timeline where you are not sleeving up cards.
Plus, you
right?
gotta pay like $10 for a pack of sleeves. That's disgusting. But no playmat. Have you played with no playmat? It's like impossible to pick up your cards. Like you need that little give to push down to pick up a card that the playmat gives you. If you don't have that, it's actually very hard to like manipulate your cards. So that's weird.
The only reason I play without a playmat is because my clownery makes me forget that my playmat at home.
But someone, I think in the Reddit thread, someone figured out this was taken in the last 5 years or something. Like this is not like an old stock photo because there's some card on this table that was only printed recently. So this was like
Oh.
recently printed or photographed, and this is the way Wizards want you to enjoy Magic the Gathering.
That's with
This
some
is
drinks,
Magic
but
the
no
Gathering.
sleeves. Yeah. Oh, I see a thermo alchemist. That is definitely a thermo alchemist there.
Yeah,
I can
There-
tell.
there's some
that
cards here that tell you
pixelated,
that
yeah.
it's recent. And it's not. Oh, there's an arcane signet. There's an arcane signet as well. But yeah, I feel this is how most people play Magic. Actually, it's just not.
Do you think?
us.
I am curious. If you're listening to this and you can comment, do you sleeve? I guess if you're
They would
listening,
not
you probably
listen to
sleeve your
us. They
deck,
wouldn't
right?
listen to
Yeah,
us.
like the people who are not sleeving their decks probably don't listen to our podcast. You really think people play unsleeved, like a meaningful
Yeah,
number of
yes.
people?
Do you play your board?
I
Aside
don't think
from
about the
Crim,
sleeve.
do you play your board game sleeved? No,
Yeah.
you do not view them as a vehicle of sending your
Yeah.
child to school. You don't
Oh,
you don't view them
that's
as an
true.
investment. You don't view them
Wait.
as your retirement fund. So you just stake cards and play them, right? Do you go to Vegas and sleeve up your poker card? Like no. So
yeah.
intuitively, I think most people would play like this.
I guess,
Dude,
that,
if
that actually makes sense. Like if you're not franchising the community, you probably wouldn't sleeve your cards, right? Because you treat it like anything else. Yeah, I actually think I believe it now.
I sleeve my Sushi Go cards. All right, so like dude, like how do you not play things like I think it's
I actually do
common
too because they get
knowledge.
marked. You're like, wait, this card's marked. I gotta put a sleeve
Yeah.
on it.
Dude, I would sleeve like it doesn't matter what it is. Like the deck in Candyland, I'll sleeve that. Like I sleeve anything that is sleevable. If it were up to I can't believe there's no way that people play unsleeved in the current year.
I'm not playing with Crim.
like
You go to board game,
disenfranchised.
he's like, okay, hold on, guys. We need to spend 30 minutes sleeving this up.
Yeah.
We gotta spend
Yeah, you gotta.
It's already
put-
sleeved.
Can you run to the
It's
LGS
already
and get me some
sleeved.
sleeves?
Yeah, you gotta.
Richard, it's
We're like,
Put on
wait,
gloves
you know
before
what
you
it
touch-
is? You put the inner sleeve in first. You got double sleeve. You got double sleeve. This is an explode kit. What are you doing? Double sleeve. I got this from Comic-Con. Double sleeve.
no joke. I do have Exploding Kitten sleeved.
Well, on that note, I think that brings us to the end of our podcast for today. No fish mail this week, but Richard, we'll probably get to it next week. How should people send in their questions for us?
All right, hit us up on Twitter at MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 490 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So Richard Grimm, thanks for hanging out. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week to talk about the Modern Pro Tour and whatever else goes on in the world of Magic. So until then, everyone, have a spectacular week. And this is a crew signing out.